Right now, while you are watching this video, somewhere, there exists a photograph of a person who lived thousands of hours of your life. He felt pain, he laughed, he cried, he saw faces, heard voices, lived through moments that shaped everything you became. And you remember absolutely nothing about him. But here is what is truly strange. It is not because your brain was weak, it is because it was doing something far more disturbing. Most people think they know the answer. The infant brain is primitive, underdeveloped. It simply couldn't record memories. Sounds logical, and it is completely wrong. At the moment of your birth, your skull contained approximately 100 billion neurons, the same number as an adult brain. But here is a fact most people never hear. A newborn brain can detect statistical patterns in language after just 8 minutes of listening. 8 minutes. Your brain was not a blunt instrument. It was phenomenally sharp. So why is there not a single memory left? Because your brain was not forgetting. It was destroying, and it was doing it deliberately. In 1 minute, you will learn about an experiment that proved this and turned neuroscience completely upside down. Imagine a city, not a beautiful city, a city under construction, cranes, excavators, foundations being blown apart, old buildings demolished to make way for skyscrapers, roads ripped open, addresses disappearing. The people who live there, their homes no longer exist. That is what was happening inside your skull during the first 3 years of your life. Deep inside your brain sits a structure called the hippocampus. Forget the boring textbook definition. Think of it as a film director. It takes raw experience, a smell, a sound, a face, a moment, and edits it into a scene you can replay in your mind years later. In adults, this system is stable. But in the first years of life, the hippocampus was doing something else entirely. It was exploding. Every single second of your infancy, your brain was generating new neurons at a rate that will never happen again in your lifetime. This is called neurogenesis, and it was absolutely necessary. Those new cells were building the circuits you are using right now, reading, thinking, breathing. But this construction came with a monstrous cost. Every new neuron, integrating into an existing circuit, tore apart the connections that were already there, the very connections that were holding your memories. In 2014, neuroscientists Paul Franklin and Sheena Jocelyn in Toronto decided to test this idea on mice. They took adult mice that had already learned mazes, remembered objects, mastered routes, and they artificially accelerated neurogenesis in their brains. The mice started forgetting, not randomly, systematically, predictably. Then they did the opposite. They slowed neurogenesis in infant mice, and those infant mice held onto their memories far longer than normal. The results, published in the journal Science, pointed to a conclusion that is deeply unsettling. Your infant brain was not too weak to hold memories. It was too busy growing, and that growth erased everything in its path. But this is only the physical part. There is something stranger, something that concerns not your brain, but you yourself, or more precisely, your absence. Here is a question most people never think to ask. To remember something, who is supposed to remember it? For a memory to exist, there must be a person it belongs to, a narrator, a center, someone who says, "This happened to me." And here is the problem. Until approximately 18 months of age, you did not exist. Not physically, your body was there, but you, in the way you experience yourself right now, had not yet arrived. There is a simple test. Researchers place a small dot of red paint on a baby's nose, without them noticing. Then they place the baby in front of a mirror. Before 18 months, the baby reaches toward the mirror, toward the reflection. They think it is another child. After 18 months, they reach toward their own nose. Something clicks. That is me. And here is what astonishes scientists. The age at which children pass this test maps almost exactly onto the age at which the first long-term autobiographical memories can form. Not a coincidence. Without a sense of self as a separate individual, memories have nowhere to land. Experience happened. Emotions were real. But there was no one to say, "This is my story." That child in the old photographs. Is it you? Or is it someone else who lived in your body before you arrived? But there is one final layer to this mystery, and it is the most unexpected of all. Because it turns out, how far back you can remember your childhood depends not on your brain, but on the country you were born in. Take two people, same age, same intelligence. Ask each one, "What is your earliest memory?" One says, "I was about 3.5 years old." The other says, "I was about 2. A difference of a full year and a half of conscious life. Why? Psychologist Catherine Nelson at the City University of New York spent decades studying one question: how do children transform experience into long-term memories? Her conclusion was radical. Memory is not only biology. It is conversation. When parents regularly talk with children about the past, Remember when we went to the beach? You were scared of the waves at first, and then you laughed. They are literally building the architecture of the child's memory. Language gives experience a skeleton. Without words, a memory is like water without a container. It exists in the moment, then it is gone. And here is where it gets truly extraordinary. Scientists compared the average age of first memory across different cultures. In Western cultures, where parents frequently narrate their children's experiences back to them, first memories begin at around 3.5 years old. Among the Maori people of New Zealand, a culture with one of the richest oral traditions in the world, where personal history is considered sacred, first memories reach back to around 2.5 years old. An entire year of difference, simply because of how often adults spoke with children about their past. Think about that for a moment. Did your parents tell you stories about your own childhood? Often? Because that, not the size of your brain, partially determines how far back you can see. Before we finish, one question. The Argentine writer Jorge Luis Borges once wrote a story about a man who, after an accident, could forget nothing. Absolutely nothing. Every leaf on every tree, every second of every day, in perfect, exhausting, crushing detail. This man could not sleep, could not think in abstractions, could not generalize. He was paralyzed by total recall. Borges wrote, "To think is to forget differences, to generalize, to abstract." Now imagine your brain had not erased the memories of infancy. Every sensory stream, every sound, light, texture, all of it from birth. Could you have learned language if every word drowned in an ocean of unprocessed data? Could you have recognized your mother's face if it competed with billions of other impressions? Some neuroscientists now believe forgetting your childhood is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. Your brain sacrificed the past so you could think in the present. So, here is what happened to those lost years. Your hippocampus was physically incapable of building long-term memories while it was busy rebuilding itself. A flood of new neurons swept through circuits faster than they could be locked in place. You had no sense of self, no one to own those memories, and you had no language, nothing to give them a shape that could survive the moment. This was not one cause. It was a perfect storm of four forces: biology, neurogenesis, identity, culture, all at once, all pointing in the same direction. Neuroscientist Paul Franklin was once asked, "Isn't it tragic that neurogenesis erases our memories?" He said something I cannot stop thinking about. The brain that forgot everything is the same brain that was able to learn everything after. Every person who has ever lived carries this same blank space. Every philosopher, every scientist, every person you love. The first chapter of every human life is written in invisible ink. But here is what is worth carrying with you. That version of you, the one who cried, laughed, took the first step, did not simply disappear. It was melted down, neuron by neuron, connection by connection, into the person you became. Are you the continuation of that child, or their replacement?